do that right now. All right. So, I mean, you're all here, so I think it's safe to say that you all agree with me in saying that staying personal and relevant is crucial for business, but it's also more challenging to do than it is to say. So the ability to connect with clients on a personal level, as well as remain relevant to their needs, is the key to success. And whether you're a small business owner or you're part of a larger organization, and I know we've got a range of people on today, that is really what it's all about. So how do you achieve this? Well, I hope that is the question that you're asking yourself, because then you're in the right room. That's exactly what we'll be discussing today. So I'm going to share my own insights, my experiences and strategies, as well as some of the tools that I use every day so that you can start implementing them straight away to enhance your own client relationships with the smart use of technology. So this is a little bit of an outline. Don't get spooked. I do get through it in less than an hour, but hopefully we'll see how we go. So throughout the session, as I said before, please share your thoughts, share your experiences and your questions. There are no right or wrongs. I think sharing is the key always. So I hope that we can all take at least one piece of information from this session and use it to create our own magic. All right, let's get started. Before we go into the thick of it, let me show you a little bit about myself, give you a bit of my a taste of my passion for using technology to stay both personal and relevant. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Leticia Bowden, and for the past 14 years, I've been a business owner with my husband, Matt. We have a web design company called Kicking Pixels, and we specialize in creating even custom user-centric websites that really resonate with our clients, or own clients and audiences. But before Kicking Pixels, I spent almost 2 decades in the world of banking and finance, where I learned the really important skills of strategic thinking and the power of technology in shaping businesses. And as well as risk management, which I think is an important part of that mix. But not satisfied with giving Kicking Pixels clients the solutions that we could deliver, we created another brand called My Web Advantage, and that brand is specifically for streamlined websites for small businesses. So talk to small businesses on a daily basis. And we also had our own pain point that we decided that we had to do something about, and we developed a software called Gatheroo, which streamlines the cumbersome process of collecting information from clients. So Gatheroo was born out of our own frustrations and need to be more efficient and to be more personal with our clients and our interaction with our clients. So I'm really excited to share with you the thinking that goes behind all of this, and hopefully you can apply that as well. So before I move on to the next page, I thought I'd give you a little bit of taste. Obviously, Gatheroo is a solution that we've built, but there's also little things that you can do in your own businesses. And if I take you back to my first job, so straight out of uni, I started working at Westpac in their treasury department. And it was a position called the middle office. So I used to sit between where the traders on the trading floor used to sit and the back office where they processed all of the trades and everything. And my job was to create reports to report on what had happened the previous day and then to estimate what was going to happen by the end of the day. So risk management and all of those things. And when I started, I walked in and the guy I was replacing had been in that position for 2 years, and he showed me the ropes and he was so excited. Like, he literally started 2 years ago just so that he could go up onto the trading floor. And I sat there and he showed me how to walk to the back office and pick up, I'm going to show my age really badly here, but pick up this wad of printed paper from a printer, the dot matrix paper, you know, with the little holes on the side that had printed out overnight. It was probably about this thick. Take it back to my desk, go through it, pick up the pieces that I needed, put it into my spreadsheets and reports, run other reports from other systems, put it all together. And I would start 8 o'clock in the morning, and by probably about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd have something that I could take to the traders. They would look through it and hopefully agree with it. That would be signed off by 2 o'clock, and then I would start on the afternoon reports and get that done. If anyone has met me, you probably know that the first thing I did was sit there and go, nah, that is not what I went to uni for. I don't know if you can hear that. There's a lizard on our roof, but yeah, I was not about to sit there day in, day out and spend my whole day creating 2 reports. So I found out who the system owner was, got them to download those reports in a CSV file. That was sent into a shared drive. I got connection to that shared drive. I got all the other systems to do the same thing. I taught myself how to write macros. And that report, when I came in at 8 o'clock in the morning, by 10 o'clock, it was signed off by everyone. It allowed me to understand what I was doing, to answer questions when the traders would look at the report and didn't quite know what was there, because that's not what they expected and not what we had estimated the day before. It allowed me to dig into those types of things and to be able to answer the questions for the people that I was doing the report for. So in that scenario, my clients were the traders, and I stayed or became personal and relevant with them. I was able to really talk to them about their positions that they had open, about the risks that they had there. And I was relevant because all of a sudden they could then concentrate on what was happening during the day. I did spent the rest of that time then doing the same thing for the end of day. We used to call that report the Eagle. So every day the Eagle had landed and everyone got to go home a lot earlier than when I started. I moved up to the trading floor within 6 to 8 months, I think, of starting. So the person I was replacing was not particularly happy. But I thought that story would resonate because it really does start with you, and it doesn't matter how small the business, it doesn't matter if it's not even your business and you're part of a larger organization. There's always things that you can do to try and make things better, faster, or more relevant. It will create time to be able to do all of the other stuff that you know that you need to do. All right, now let's get stuck in. We're going to firstly break down the topic that we have today. So personal. Being personal means relating to or belonging to a single person rather than a group. So that's where you get people's attention, and that's when you keep people's attention and you keep them close. And it shouldn't be difficult, right? We do this all the time, except that we are wired to filter out everything in the world. There is so much information that comes to us every which way. You probably would have heard 15 years ago, it was you needed to have 6 touch points to build trust with a client. Now that's up to 65, if not 165 now. We've got social media that is in our faces all the time, as well as everything else. We are just wired to filter out the stuff that we don't need. We would go absolutely crazy if we didn't. If you've ever played a game of Spotto in the car, you would know this. There are no yellow cars on the road until you start playing the game, and then there's yellow cards everywhere. So this is what we have to cut through to get people's attention. And personalization does start a lot earlier than you might think. If you think of a visit to a farmer's market and you're walking around and they've got all the little tasters out there. Now, I'm sure they're super, super friendly people, but at the end of the day, they know that by giving you something and by you tasting it, they're making that experience, that product more personal. They're getting that connection. And the more personal it feels, the more likely that they are to make a purchase, or that in that case, that you are to make a purchase from them. So really that personal aspect is about making every single person feel like they're the only one that matter. All right, so now if we talk about relevance, relevance is about being closely connected to what's important to your audience at any given moment. So you need to make sure that your message and your product and your service resonate with their current needs and circumstances. So you could have the most personal message in the world. In the case of that market, they could be hungry, and they could have the connection, they can touch it, they can feel it. But if they're gluten intolerant and you don't have gluten-free bread, then it's just not going to be relevant. You've wasted all of that time talking to a person who is never going to buy your product. So we need to be relevant, because if we're not, it's a very inefficient way to use our resources, our time, our money, our space. Everything is wasted if you're not relevant. I'd love to know if anyone knows or remembers a time when they've received communication that just wasn't relevant to them. Anything that kind of resonates with you, Sharon? How did that make you feel? Do you feel like, oh, you just leave it? Or do you feel like, I can give you an example. I get emails all the time from people who say, hey, do you want a new website? Now, I'm sure that there's other opinions out there, but we do websites, and if they had one look at our website, they would know that we're not their target market. And Jonathan, all the time, do you have a specific example there, or? Yeah. Is that you, Jonathan?
Yes.
Yep. Did you want to give us an example, or?
There's so much. Yeah, lots of emails that, especially businesses that have more than one product line. It's hard. Sometimes I don't have the option to tell them I just want to know about this product, and they just send me everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think then you also run into the issue of you're sending them so much that they are used to just filtering everything. So in your case, Jonathan, when someone is sending you information that you don't need, you'll probably miss that one email that would have been relevant and would have made you purchase something else, because now you've conditioned yourself to just filter everything out that is from that person.
Yeah. And not just that. I think if it's consistent that they're not hitting my interest, then that's when I unsubscribe.
Yeah, and you start to almost, and if you are working closely with someone, some of those things they then have the flip side, and that's when you're using technology and you use it too far, and it makes you feel awful, and you actually look for a different provider or a different solution just because you don't feel that personal touch has actually gone backwards, and it all goes pear-shaped. No,
yeah,
thanks for sharing.
That's right. Yeah, you're welcome, Letitia.
So then the last piece of the puzzle here is technology. And when we use it wisely, it can be such a powerful enabler. As we just said, when you don't use it wisely, then it can have detrimental effect. But if you use technology to automate the mundane and repetitive tasks in the business, it then frees up your time to be able to do the valuable a task that will be beneficial for your own growth and for your business as well. So balance, 100%, it's everything. It's easy to get carried away with automation. So just make sure that you're not getting lost in that, and make sure that you consider what you're doing. I had a quick question for everyone. Does everyone use a CRM at the moment? You just pop that into the chat. So a few yeses. I would say a CRM, and I was on Sharon's call earlier as well, and she mentioned it a few times as well. A CRM is the absolute minimum that you should have, and just starting. Yeah. So look, I think even if you don't have a business yet, get a CRM, because you can do so much with it, and it will help you further down the track. If you've got no clients, if you've got one client, just get one. Just get used to using it. Once you start using it, you'll see the power that it holds for you. But one thing that I see quite often is people who will say, hey, I'll automate a birthday message to my client through the CRM. And it sounds like a really cool thing to do until that client gets the same message every single week, every week, every year, or there might be a couple of people that know each other and they're getting the same message. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, actually, back to what we were talking about, Jonathan, before, it's something that you think is going to be personal and hit the mark, actually has the opposite effect. CRM is great for relationship building. Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't got a CRM and you want to start using something, HubSpot do a free version of their CRM. I mean, I think HubSpot is a great solution. The only problem with using that is that if you need other things, the costs will start to be quite steep quite quickly. So there are other solutions out there that you can look at that have an initial cost, but the costs don't go up quite so much. So yeah, definitely something to look at. But yes, so back to the example for the messages to your clients for a birthday, if you just tweaked that automation a little bit, and rather than sending them an automated message, make sure that that automation actually puts a task in for you to call them. And now you've turned that automation, and you don't have to remember it because it'll be in your task list. But that will make sure that you can call them, and then they'll get a call from you for no other reason than to say happy birthday. They'll be in a good mood because, well, I hope they'll be in a good mood because it's their birthday. And, initially they might just be waiting for you to ask for something, but when you don't, they'll tell you stuff. And that's when you start to get those really personal information come through, whether it's the growth of the business or they're thinking about hiring someone, all of those things. It doesn't matter what you do in your business. The more you know about what's happening on that side, the more you can be personal and the more you can stay relevant in the future. So those little phone calls, rather than just a straight out automation, think about what you're doing, try and make sure that that you're hitting the mark when you use that technology. The other example that I have here is the use of Calendly. I'm sure just about everyone has used or has received Calendly. When I started using it, I felt really icky, especially when a client would sign up and pay a deposit, and my next email to them was, here's my link, pick a time. That felt really impersonal to me, for me to be doing that to people. And I did find that I wasn't getting the instant responses and whatnot. Someone mentioned to me, why don't you just tweak that message and just say, hey, let me know when you've got some time, but if it's easier for you, here's a link to my calendar. You have no idea how much that has changed everything. It's changed the way, obviously, that I write to them, but it also changes the way they respond. Most people will click on that link straight away because it is easier for them. It wasn't easier for me. It is, but it's put in a way that is better for them. So yeah, I'm saving time, no back and forth emails. I'm saving time not having to chase them to go, hey, we can't start your project until you book in that meeting, and yeah, everything just happens a lot smoother. So what happens when we don't use technology? We've touched on this already, but the consequences of not getting that balance right between not using it, and using it too much, and to stay personal and relevant is really quite significant. We're constantly looking over our shoulder. We are always, worried about what's happening next. You'll find that you'll get a lot of client turnover or staff turnover. They start to feel undervalued, and when things are not personal, they won't want to stay there. Leads will also dry up because it starts at the very start as well, not just when they start being a paid client. Our margins start to get squeezed as well. And we can blame it on other things. We can blame it on compliance or any manner of other things. But at the end of the day, if we are more effective and more efficient and use technology well, we can use that time to be personal and to do all of the other things, but it'll also help our margins to come up as we do more with the time that we have. And we become a very reactive business. So we're constantly fighting fires or reacting to someone else's issues. They've got a couple of examples coming up next of businesses that we all know that didn't do this very well. The first one being Blockbuster. So we all know them. They used to be the giant in the video rental industry. But they didn't see the digital revolution come through. They didn't adapt. They ignored the fact that the public was now all of a sudden looking for convenience and instant access to things. They thought they knew better. They refused to think about how the world changing around them needed to be incorporated into their own business and their business model. And they became irrelevant to people. Then by the time they realized that, they had lost their market share. Netflix had already come in and stolen most of their customers with more relevant and technology-driven solutions. The next one's BlackBerry. Don't know if you all remember BlackBerries. They dominated the smartphone market. If you had a BlackBerry, that's all you needed, really. They were really slow to recognize the shift towards touchscreen devices and also consumer-led features. So as a result, they just lost everyone. I know that they're still around and they're still trying. They came out with a touchscreen, but it just didn't cut it for most people. Apple and Android are now their go-to. And Kodak, someone at Kodak is really kicking themselves because they invented the digital camera, but they chose not to pursue it because they were worried about the rest of their business and their film business. So they missed out on the entire digital boom in this sector, and their market shares plummeted, and their relevance, they were just not there. So some examples of how making sure that what you don't want to end up by not looking at technology and not looking at how you can implement it into your own business. Now, AI is all the talk now, as touchscreens were when they first came out, and tools like ChatGPT are a really good example and a really good talking point to see what the difference is between not using it well, and then using it too much. So look, my view is ChatGPT is a great productivity tool. So you can use it to research, you can use it to brainstorm your businesses, your opportunities, your threats, all of those things. And I 100% recommend doing what it says on the tin, and that's chat. So you want to be having a discussion with ChatGPT, not just say, hey, give me this and get it back. That's how you get productivity. You do a lot of research very quickly, and that's how you get ahead. Used incorrectly, though, you will alienate everyone. So all of your blogs will end up starting with, in this digital age, or in these difficult times. Like, honestly, when I see that on a blog or a post, I delete it if I can, or I definitely scroll straight past it. You know that there's no relevance. I know it's this difficult times, this is today. I'm not reading a history book. It's not relevant to start like that. It's got no personality whatsoever. And as a result, you'll have no interest and no sales. So definitely way too many people overusing those types of tools. If you don't use it though at all, your competitors will end up having an advantage over you. So don't be scared to use it, but just don't use it blindly. Is everyone using ChatGPT at the moment for something in their business? If you've got any anything that you do internally, like we use it for internal procedures and policies, it's really, really powerful. Cool. Well, it looks like there's quite a few people using it, which is great. All right, so chatty. We've actually got a couple. We've got a cybersecurity one called Cyber Sheila. So yes, we've created our own little chats as well. Yeah. Oh, what did we do before ChatGPT? All right. So as small businesses, though, you know, those are big failures. But we hear is things like people don't relate, and that you'll hear the words, "It's not for me," or "They're not looking for someone like me." You know, I hear it all the time when people hear what we do, and they'll turn around and go, "Oh, yeah, but I don't need it." Now, I know for a fact 100 people who do exactly the same thing as you do need it, but they just don't relate. So that message is not right for them. So yeah, making sure that you've got you listen to those cues to make sure that you can then adjust your message going forward is really key. Clients often leave. They'll say things like, "We outgrew them." We see this a lot with accountants specifically. So many of their clients will turn around and go, "Oh, yes, I had an account. We just left them. We outgrew them. We became too big for them." Now, the problem probably isn't that. The problem is the accountant was so busy chasing their tail and doing all the firefighting and doing all of the repetitive tasks that they haven't automated, that they didn't have the time to make that phone call and to say, "Right, okay, where are you at? Actually, you know, we've done a really good job. We've worked with you for the last 10 years. Your business has gone from this place to that place. And guess what? We actually do all of these other services on the back end that you don't know about because you haven't needed them yet." But the accountant doesn't have the time to have that conversation. The client doesn't know it, and they'll just go looking for someone else instead. So that's a huge one to listen out for. And when your clients do leave, it's really important to do those, you know, exit surveys or little interviews. You're not trying to claw them back. No one wants that. But you are trying to understand why they're leaving and at which point did you lose that personal touch. And the other one is finger pointing. So if you ever hear clients saying they didn't do enough, so they didn't do enough to keep me safe, or they didn't do enough to understand me or to explain things properly to me, that is a surefire sign that you haven't had the time to do what you do, because you probably do all of those things, but you haven't communicated it. So when we do get it right, that's when the magic happens. So our reputations then precedes us. You know, people will turn around and go, "Oh, that process was really easy. Oh, they were really easy to deal with. I really recommend it." All of those things will come around having really strong processes, automating what you can, and having those personal touch points. You don't want them to be thinking, "Oh, you know, they kind of left me to my own device," because everything's automated. But by the same token, if you're having to call them every time, then, you know, we've been through that. You just won't have time for anything else. We'll also be able to select the work and the clients and the staff that we want. We'll be in a place where things stop feeling like work all the time, and it'll start to being fun again, which is kind of what we all go into business for, I think. I do. And then we'll have time to think strategically. So have the pie in the sky ideas, have your thoughts and your contingency plans. Your business then becomes resilient and you can hit anything. You can get through anything at any time. So Matt and I, it's easy for us to sit down on a Friday night and just to have those kind of conversations, but we were having those way before COVID, and we had plan B and C. And when COVID hit, plan B came into action, which was the My Web Advantage. And then after that, Gatheroo came up as well. So having those high level conversations and thoughts and planning sessions will really help you, that whatever happens at any time, then you'll have the opportunity to pivot your business and keep going. So some examples of businesses that do the personal stuff really well. And, this is Coke. I'm sure you all remember the campaign Share a Coke. They printed people's names on the bottles. A really, really clever way of being personal on a mass scale. So personal doesn't have to be that one-on-one. You can do it on a mass scale. You can see on that photo, they've got 3 versions of the word or the name Abby. Even if your name is not spelt that way, you probably would start looking for it. And the more you see the product, the more you want it. And so they were able to create that in demand that kind of fed on itself. I know I will never see my name on a Coke bottle, not on a mass scale like that. But I was looking out for the kids' names. And if I found those, then, I love Coke, so any excuse to buy a bottle, but it does kind of feed on itself. And that campaign was such a huge success for them. They had it 2 or 3 years in a row, I think. And Nutella is the next one underneath, slightly different, but again, it makes people look at it. It's a little bit different. They will look at the different images that are in there. I know my kids always wanted to buy a bottle that they found for their uncle because he's a surfer, or this person because he likes to go bush riding, bushwalking or whatever. So really great examples of companies who do personal but en masse, and it doesn't have to always be that, hey, this is you specifically, I'm talking to you and I'm going to change my message every single time. The technology advances in printing is what enabled these companies to do that. So yes, they had big marketing departments and they have a lot of money to spend, but it was because all of a sudden you can do smaller print runs that they were able to do that. They couldn't have done this 20 years ago. So this is what we need to take into our own businesses. How do we take some of those things to be able to be personal without being one-on-one personal? So being personal, like I mentioned before, is not necessarily the one-on-one. Being relevant, companies that have mastered being relevant. Now, Netflix, if you haven't read this book, I recommend it. They were trying to do the Netflix. So before there were the online streaming video, they had DVDs through the post that you would put on your list on your computer, and then they would send you to, and then it would kind of be this continuous loop. But before that, they actually tried the idea that they had, but with the videotapes, and then they found out quite quickly that they didn't even fit in the slot at the post box at the post office. So that idea was put on the back burner, but the DVD came up pretty quickly after that. So they reinvented it, and DVDs worked, and so that Netflix was born. Then they moved on to the streaming model that they are today. But just being relevant all the time, every step of the way, and just because you've nailed it now doesn't mean that it's not going to be irrelevant for your clients tomorrow. Lego, another huge company, amazing work that they've done. They could have easily have been left on the shelf to gather dust, but they made themselves be relevant. They started in video games. They had a movie. They now also partner up with other people that are relevant at the time. So any movie that comes out, you'll see that they've got a partnership with, and they'll have the new box that comes out with that, staying relevant every step of the way. And of course, yeah, Apple, they're constantly changing and staying personal and relevant by focusing on the user experience and design as well. Yeah, they've been amazing to take that personal computer and make it even more personal by putting it into your pocket and really thinking in how technology could really help them to stay relevant. So the keys here that we can take away from that is to be proactive, to be adaptable, and to focus on the client experience. So if you can make sure that everything that you look at hits those three, I think you're on to a winner. I know that a lot of you will be sitting there and going, well, this is all complete madness. I've got no time, no money, no clue. I hope you have a clue, but it's hard to evaluate everything that's out there all the time. We're always, juggling a lot of things. There's never enough time in the day. We're responding to emails all the time and constantly feeling like, can we double ourselves? But the good news is that technology can actually help us to reclaim some of that time. So let's see how we do that. Now, I put into a free stock photography thing just to try and find an image for this one, and it came up with this and a million others, and I guarantee you that just opening up your arms and looking up at the sky is not going to create time for you. But automation is automate, automate, automate. I can't stress that enough. I probably could have fit another one in there. If you can automate your tasks, you will free up so much of your time. It's mind-blowing how that helps. If you can, if you think of an email, for example, when an email comes in and you look at your emails, and you might think it takes you 2 minutes to read it, 3 minutes to answer it, that's a 5-minute task. For you to go from one task to the next and back again, it'll take you 20 minutes to get back into that initial task. So that's actually 25 minutes of time that you've spent on that one email. So if you can automate just your emails going out, you'll free up some time. If you can set up a automated email sequence for your onboarding, for example, that will help them out. You can break down each step one by one so that they're not overwhelmed. Clients are exactly like us. If we've got a list as long as our arm in front of us, that's not going to get done because we're overwhelmed. We don't know where to start. So if you can just break it down for a client and just have one step at a time, that will help them to help you with that time management as well. Setting boundaries, communicating them, and following them, I think, is a really important one as well. And that leads back to the email side of things. So your emails are distracting you every time you look at them. And if your clients think that you're going to answer them straight away, then that's when you start going down this slippery slope. So one thing that we've implemented in our own business is a ticketing service. I think it's called QuickDesk or Freshdesk. I think they might be the same thing. But attached to that is an automated email that goes back out to the person. So it'll go to our support email address, and the client gets an email saying, hey, we've created a ticket. If you're a care plan client, we'll respond to you in X hours. If you are not, we'll respond to you in X days. Now, it does a few things in that. It stops me from looking at my email inbox. I don't need to worry about it because I know it's in a ticketing service and someone will look after it. It also responds to the client straight away. They know that we've got a ticket. It gives them clear explanation of what our SLAs are, so our service level agreements, when they can expect to hear back from us. And the third thing that it does in this instance as well is to make our care plan clients feel valued, because we have a much higher response service level agreement for them, because they pay us every month, to someone who's decided that they will look after their website. Well, they might be off the street, in fact, and they'll have to wait longer because they're not our priority. So there's lots of ways, even in just that little tool, that is making them, our clients, feel personal, but also that we're being relevant, and making sure that we're spending our time where we need to be spending it. Does anyone else have a ticketing service or a way of handling that? Nope. I very much recommend it, even if you're a service industry, anything, just, you know, the less you can have in your emails, the better, I see. And the last one is, get your to-do list out of your head and out of your emails. Your to-do list in your head is just using up your brain cells. You know, I like to think of us having a brain cell budget every single day. If you have your to-do list sitting there, it's eating away at it, and that's just absolute rubbish. Write it down, get a task management system if you need one. We use Jira. There's lots and lots of them out there. And don't use your emails, because your emails are someone else's to-do list. Every time someone else sends you an email, that ends up on your to-do list, and that's not what your to-do list should be. You need to be making sure that you're in control of that list and you decide when things get done. Just reading a comment from Sharon. Our prefrontal cortex can only hold 3 to 4 thoughts at a time. I think that's being generous for a lot of people, Sharon. I think I'm good at 1 or 2. No, external brain principle. I'll have to read that out later. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, look, make sure that you are leveraging technology to make sure that you're able to create time for yourself. You can also, as you're automating, you know, making sure that you've got emails that go out, make sure that there's names in emails. And if we go back to that filtering bit that we were talking about earlier, put the name in the subject of the email, because people will stop filtering it out as much as well, because yeah, they'll recognize their name and they'll go, oh, I'll open this email as opposed to the other 10 that don't have my name. Yeah. All right. Oh, I think that was another one. Okay, I'd love to know, actually, well, I've got a few people on here. What is one task in your business that you think you could automate? I think for this, have a think about the stuff that you do day in, day out. Yeah, client onboarding is a huge one. But also think about the other end, asking for reviews, referrals, testimonials, email templates for clients. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can automate if you just take a little bit of time and think about it. And it will just start creating time. I know that we're always sitting there going, I've got no time for this, but you will quickly create that time for you. All right. So we created time ourselves. I'll just go through this very quickly because we're fast running out of time. But the system that we created, and we created that for ourselves first, and we used it with our clients, and then our clients loved it and said, oh, this is a really good system. And we thought, okay, well, we'll build it so that other people, our other businesses can use it as well. But we've created time for ourselves by having a quick overview of everything that we've asked for clients. So no more searching through my emails and going, I can't remember where I'm at, and then starting again for the next client and the next client. We've got a quick summary. So think about ways that you can have those dashboards where it's very quick and easy for you to get that overview without having to waste time that you're probably never going to be able to bill for. Automated reminders, find systems that will automatically send out reminders until they've completed the task that you've done. You can do that even in your email marketing systems. Normally you can do that until they either respond or click on a link. At least that will take you part of the way there. Having one source of truth, I think this is one of my biggest bugbears before, where people will just send you things whichever way. They'll send it to my email address, to my support email address, sometimes text, sometimes they'll call me to give me information, and I had stuff absolutely everywhere. So making sure that you have those really strong processes and that you're communicating those with your clients and tell them exactly how they're going to give you information or how they're going to work with you, make sure that you're in control every step of the way. And onboarding, offboarding, daily work and testimonials, some of the stuff that we have, we're constantly automating so that we're not having to do the mundane stuff. So must-haves for a small business, well, for any business really, but as a small business, there are some things that we must have in place if you're going to be personal and relevant. And that starts with 3 things. It starts with a CRM, which we've discussed before. You have to have a client avatar. And if you don't know what a client avatar is, just let me know. I've got templates that I can send you, but you need to know who your most ideal client is, so that you can talk to them. And once you can do that, then you'll be able to be very streamlined, you'll be able to be personal, and you'll be able to be relevant. I'll give you a very quick example here. For our client avatar for Gatheroo is bookkeepers. Now, we talk to bookkeepers and their problems and their pain points all the time. And I would say probably 50% of the clients that we have on Gatheroo are not bookkeepers. It doesn't matter. If you're very specific, you will hit the target, but other people will also hear the message if it's relevant to them. So, if you think of kids, if you could be sitting there, I've got 2 boys, I'll be talking to them and trying to get them to do a chore or do something, and they don't hear me. And I'll turn around, and at a third of that voice, I'll talk to my husband, Matt, about Christmas. And then all of a sudden it's like, Christmas? What do you mean Christmas? That conversation wasn't for them, but they heard something that was relevant to them. And it's the same thing for your client avatar. So don't be scared to go very skinny with your client avatar, to hone in on exactly who your best client is. Other people will come along anyway. And brain guidelines. You can do all of this stuff right. If you don't have brain guidelines and don't stick to them, you will confuse people and people won't recognize you, and all of that work will just go straight down the gurgler. So in the same way as if you change your hair color every day, people wouldn't recognize you in the street as you're walking through. It's the same with your brand. You need to make sure you're consistent. I do have 3 websites, again, just connect if you want any help with any of this stuff, but there's 3 websites that are free to use. There's Color Explained if you haven't got colors or you want to validate the colors that you currently have. There's another one that will give you a color palette and different shades of the same color as well. And then that third one is for fonts. So you can put in the name of your business and see what it looks like on different fonts and see what kind of resonates with you. But yeah, those are the 3 basic things that you need for all of the other bits to fall into place to be personal and relevant. All right, so how are we going to be personal in bulk? Email marketing, definitely an easy one, whether it's cold emails or to a database that you have or your newsletters, but make sure you use names. I've got location dates there, which probably doesn't make a fat lot of sense, but I think it's Labor Day in America, I think at the moment, somewhere, because I did see it on a post. but it's not here. And Labor Day is different in different states. So make sure that you're keeping those tags in your CRM, because you're all using one, so that you can be relevant when you're talking to people and you're not sending them the wrong thing at the wrong time. And interest tags, you know, if you're a pet store and someone buys, like Jonathan was saying, if someone buys something for a dog, you don't want to be sending a whole bunch of stuff about cats. He's got a dog. Let's just focus on that. Social media scheduler is something that I think is probably understated. It's easier to set things sometimes ahead of time. I used a free version of Buffer that was quite cool. You can have 3 different accounts attached to it. So I think I did LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And the messages that were appropriate for all platforms. Obviously, not everything is going to be. I had to set once and then it goes out. But I think the important thing with this one is have a think about your avatar, and sometimes you will have a slight version of one. So you have to, for example, if you're in education, you may very well have teachers as one side of your target audience, and you'll have parents. Now, teachers might be online in the morning before the school bell goes, and so you want to schedule those posts to be in the morning, whereas in the afternoon it may be the parents who are struggling to get their kids to do homework or to explain it to them. They're the ones looking for a tutor, and so that you might want to have those messages hit at that time. So again, just try and be relevant and be where your audience is at the right time. Website targeting, that's an easy one for me to talk about because we do this all the time. But there's a lot of different ways that you can be very targeted with your website. You can have geo-targeting, you can change the the language. I just hate going on an Australian website that's got Z just because they might have 2 clients in the US. But all of those things you can do on your website as well. So on a digital note, what can you do? Stickers and gifts, again, because printing has become so much cheaper and you don't need those huge print runs. Think about those. I bought some little wireless phone chargers, and they came in this little ugly brown box, and I used to give them at the end of a project to clients, and I just put a little sticker with our logo on it. So it was personalized with our logo, not even anything to do with the client, but the faces that clients had when they got this little box and saw that it had our logo on there, they were just beside themselves. They loved it. Something really quick and easy to do, and whether it's on even on a paper bag that you just put your logo on that, just makes a big difference. Videos, I've got Synthesia up there. We use it, and we've got a video. I can't remember her name now. Anna, I think her name is. It's AI, and it's a lot easier to make videos with that rather than having to watch yourself and do take after take after take. We do a lot of those videos we use internally as well to save ourselves time just for training. But yeah, Synthesia, it's a really easy way. And if you've got those onboarding client documents, you can add a little link to a video that says, hey, so glad to have you on board and whatnot. It can be a link to Synthesia, and you just change the client name each time and just say, hey, I'm the AI, but they hear their name, they feel all nice and warm. And TouchNote is the last one. I use that for the grandparents, but so easy to use for those personal touch points with your clients. So you can have a photo. I use this on the phone, and it lets you upload the photos that you want on the back of a postcard, and then write the message and put the address there, and it sends it off for you. I think it's about $5 for a postcard, but you could have a standard photo of yourself with a speech bubble going, hey, great to have you on board or something. And so every time you get a new client, you just, 2 minutes and it's gone, but they get that, and then that validates the decision for them to work for you and adds to that personal touch. Anyone got anything else they want to add in at this stage, or kind of feel like I'm running at 1,000,000 miles an hour because I've got 5 minutes left to go. Yeah, the postcard, which is really cool. My son got, so even if you're in education, my son got one from school. He won some, Star of the Week or something. But they just had, and they obviously they can't do photos of the kids over the post, but they just had like it was from the art department. They had a picture that one of the teachers had drawn, and that was sent to him. And so when he came home from school and he opened the letterbox and found that, like, he's in high school, but I tell you, he was pretty happy with it. So there is a lot of information, a lot of ways that you can actually apply that. Right. So personal one-on-one, once you have all of that time and you've been able to manage to, automate some of those things, make sure you ask for feedback and testimonials. We do that in a few different ways, but we also use Gatheroo to send those, because we can then break it down and lead the client into thinking about it the right way. We don't want testimonials that go, oh, they were cheap and really fast. They did it yesterday. We want them to think about, okay, well, this is the problem that I had, and this is actually, I felt really good afterwards. And so we'll ask them all of those questions. It comes back to us. We put it through ChatGPT, and then we send it back to them and say, I think this is, a summary of what you're saying. Can you use that as a base and then put it into a Google review, or can we use it on the website? And if you can be that proactive with them, 9 times out of 10, you get a yes straight away, because then they've ticked something off their list. Strategy calls to grow together. Back to that accounting example that I had, but we use it on the website side of things as well. I think there was a web designer as well on the call. Definitely, every quarter our clients get an email and say, hey, it's time for your strategy call. It makes them feel great. Not all of them take it up. They don't have to. They know that we offer it. And on those calls, they'll ask us questions, and then it's a way of, again, understanding where their business is at. Half the time they'll end up going, oh yeah, actually, we were thinking of a rebrand. Okay, well, this is how we would do it. And then we become a partner in that part of the business as well. Coffees and events. It's always nice to have those touch points. The other one that I didn't put down there is networking events. It's just great for clients to feel like you care about them in a wider sense than just the bits that they're paying you money for. So have a think about some of those things that you can do that is personal and doesn't even cost you anything. So be proactive. Netflix, they suggest add-ons. We can suggest add-ons, whether you do that through your CRM because you're tagging people, or you do it on your website. If you've got e-commerce, you can do it through just emails. Just think about, what else might they want, and ask them the question. And yeah, don't make the mistake that Jonathan experiences, where they get bombarded with everything. Create FOMO. Fear of missing out. Spotify, they send an email every year, and you can see we moved away from Spotify. We're an Apple family. But I got this, and this is my wrap. Oh no, sorry, you didn't listen enough to get a wrap. Yeah, that's a great strategy as well. Just because people are not using your services right now doesn't mean that you can't make them feel bad about it. And the other one is that's the Nike Run Up. So they sell shoes, they sell clothes, but they've got a free app, and they will train with you every step of the way. So those interactions, again, you don't have to build an app to do this, but you can definitely have a 5-week challenge where for 5 weeks they sign up. For 5 weeks, they get an email from you, you're top of mind, you're making sure that you're there and relevant. Website, I'll just go quickly through this. This is some of the stuff that we've done. This client's got a website. They needed 3 websites, 3 different countries, but because we've set it up in the right way as a multi-site, they only have to manage 1 website. Make sure your website's connected to your CRM, because you don't need to get an email just to then put it into your CRM. Do it automatically. That will free up your time. Make sure you've got auto emails that go out. If you've got subscriptions, don't invoice manually. Do that through your your website, and make sure that you've got contact forms there, not phone numbers if you don't want to be disrupted. So your to-do list, I'll just do very quickly. What do your tools currently do? Try and think of Excel. What can you do there? Emails, you can use rules to answer people, or to snooze emails to create yourself some time. Work offline on emails to stop the interruptions. Think about your onboarding docs. Can you automate that system? Look for a system, if you do have the ability to, that addresses one pain point. Don't get caught up in going, oh yeah, but wouldn't it be great if it did X, Y, and Z? Just start with one. Once you've got that, you'll have more time. You can then think about the next step, and you might move away from that, but at least you've taken that first step. Your action points: implement the basic CRM, the avatar, and your brand guidelines. Map out your client touch points. I'll put that on the next slide, and you're welcome to the deck if you would like it, and find one task that you can automate and one task that you want to do more of. So we've got the touch points here. This is just a guide to think about, just to have a think about how your clients travel, and every single touch points that they have with you as they work with you. I'm sorry, the end was very rushed, but thank you so much for to everyone for coming along. I hope that was useful. I would love to hear in the chat if you've got one piece that you're taking away today and that you're going to work on. You're more than welcome to book a chat with me to talk about any aspect of this as well. I know there's a lot there, and every business is different, so very happy to have a chat, but please do stay in touch, and thank you very much, everyone.